Hello and welcome to the Roughneck Minute, a Movies by Minute podcast where we go over the movie Starship Troopers 1 minute at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Matthew.
And I'm your other host, Johann.
And we're at credits part 2. These credits, we're starting with the stunt people. So yeah, man, we have already gone through the beginning of the crawl with all of our main and secondary actors, and now we're on to the people who provided the stunts up for this movie.
Yep. Was there anything here that stood out to you?
Not really. It was majorly the what's his face, the stunt coordinator that really does a lot of the work, including making sure everything goes safely and everything. These guys, I'm pretty sure they did a great job, jumping and twirling around. But as we did notice in the movie, Casper did do some of his own stunts as well too, including getting hit by Dina Meyer as well, really, really hard in that helmet and making him see stars. So,
yeah. One of the ones that I noticed was this Bruce Barber.
Mm-hmm.
He was the stunt knife thrower.
Oh,
yeah, which I think is kind of cool because I think a lot of these stunts here, most of them are credited as stunt doubles, but not specifically who they were doubling for. So it's a little bit hard to say. Like some of them might be some of the troopers that are on the ship when it's all wibbly wobbly and they throw themselves up in the air type of thing and do pratfalls and all that stuff. But a lot of them, it's hard to tell who doubled for who because they're just as it just says stunts.
Yeah, it doesn't say like stunt double for Mr. Van Dien, stunt double for Miss Meyer or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's pretty much like once we got to this scene, we just caught their stunt doubles and we didn't actually catch the cast.
Yeah, it might just be various stunt people doing certain things like falling off certain things, and I'm assuming some of them might have been the troopers that were up on that tower and they go down the ladder quickly, doing that slide where like you put your feet on the sides of it and all that. Because that's just that has to be a stunt person that does that. Those things aren't easy to do.
No, and one thing that reminds me of that too. Did you ever see the movie Rocket Man?
Jeez, which movie was that?
I don't know the name of the dude who is the main character, but it has the guy who plays Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey a commander.
Yeah, I know this movie. Harlan Williams. He was in.
Yeah, there we go.
Half Baked.
Mm-hmm.
He has this really, really funny joke about manatees, where they calls them just retarded walruses. I know the word's not PC anymore, but the joke came out in like late '90s. But this guy's a funny stand-up.
Yeah, this movie was like a kid's movie, and it was made for me because it's basically a software engineer who designs a landing system for a Mars rover, and he's just always wanted to go into space, but he still got a job at NASA designing their landing system. And when the Mars mission's current lander guy can't land it, and he says there's something wrong with the software, they go to the main character. What's his face again?
Harlan Williams.
They go to Harlan Williams and say, "Oh, something's broken," and he's like, "No, you're wrong. Everything's fine." And so, they think of, instead of retraining what's his face to land the rocket properly, let's have this guy who already knows how to land the rocket and make him an astronaut. And it has a bunch of hijinks, body humor, and everything.
Yeah, I think I saw things about this movie, like he's attached to some guy by a hose and he lets out a fart or something like that.
Multiple farts. They have to share air. Yeah, and he's like, well, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
He's like, no, we're a million miles from anyone in the world. They're on Mars. Yeah, he's like, we're a billion miles from anyone, and it wasn't you. He's like, yeah, it wasn't me.
Well,
it's really dumb, but I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I other than that part of that movie, I don't know anything else about it. So
yeah, it's an okay movie. It's one of those older movies that I used to like when I was a little kid and watched like multiple times. Like my son watches Go-Go now.
Oh, okay. Alrighty.
But now we get to art directors, set directors, and lead men and set dressing, on-set dressers, basically people who made sure that everything looked good for the film as well too. First assistants to steady cams, camera bees, loaders, and whatnot, boom operators, all that other good stuff as well too. Film editors, second assistant editors as well too. And then we get to re-recording mixers. These are the people who make sure that sounds correctly, and that was Kevin O'Connell, Greg P. Russell as well too.
Yeah. There's one of the things that kind of stood out to me here was there were Steadicam operators. I like for some reason I didn't think that there were Steadicams around at this time. I thought everything was kind of on that stable what's it called, tripod. I didn't think that technology was used in movies other than in what's it called, sports and whatnot.
Steadicams back in the day, especially in 96, 97, they were really hard to come by. And the easiest way to get that kind of Steadicam shot was to roll on a track and, get like a panning shot kind of on that track. And that was a somewhat Steadicam because, yeah, it wasn't jostling around or anything like that. It was on like a nice little rail. But the rigs for Steadicam, man, they're not the nice little light, harnesses that they are today. They were giant honking things.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I mean, you can have like a Steadicam mechanism to hold your beer up for you while you dance.
Yeah. Some of the people that use the Steadicams, like in sports, it's like when I know there's like a pitcher that's notorious for it, but when he gets out of the bullpen, he like does a dead sprint to the mound, and they use the Steadicam to follow that player from the field to the mound. Basically, they're camera operators that can easily get out of the way without having to set up a system, like a track and all that. But yeah, this one guy, he like ate it, like the Steadicam operator. And I know this not noticed, but I know that the Steadicams now, they're just like some of them just use it one-handed. They're super light now.
Yeah, the ones I've been seeing are starting to get to a point where you can actually put in your smartphones, throw them in there, and just get them on Steadicam as well too. They're still like pretty decent rigs, but yeah, you can like move around decently enough, and it looks great.
Yeah. So we also have the boom operator, Raul A. Bruce. I saw a doc about like some of the boom operators. It's kind of a skill. It's interesting. It's not like the most complicated skill that it seems, but they say like there's a lot of like technicality to it that after a while you start to get really good at it. One of them is if you hold the boom too tight, even though the boom holds onto the mic at the farthest end of the pole, if you hold it too tight, it actually picks up your pulse.
Yeah, it gets a little bit of resonance and whatnot.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's nuts.
I think those guys are kind of cool. They have a cool job for what they do.
Yeah, I mean they best have the best antiperspirant that with the leak guard as well too, to make sure when their arms are up there they don't have pit stains or anything like that.
No, I'm just thinking that their shoulders must be massive.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right, so where are we at? We're at the re-recording mixers.
I'm actually down to sound editors, supervising Foley editors, Foley artists, 40 mixers, and dialogue editors.
Okay, so for the supervising Foley editor, I do have. I looked up Nicholas James.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I brought him up, but he worked on Godzilla 2000.
Oh, Zilla, of course.
Yeah, Lion King 2, Jackie Brown, Independence Day. I think I brought up this list before.
Mm-hmm.
He may have shown up earlier. But I can't remember if we brought up Bruce Hill.
No, I don't think we did.
Yeah, some of these people are listed twice, so it kind of screws me up of where they're at in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Bruce Hill, he worked on a movie that was theoretically bad, but I thought it was great. It's Virtuosity.
I don't think I remember seeing that one. Is that... Explain it to me real quick. Like, just give me a quick synopsis.
Okay, so Denzel Washington, he's a cop, and he for some reason he's a disgraced cop, and Russell Crowe is a main bad guy, but he's like an AI come to life, and he's a mix of many different serial killers and like even Hitler, one of them. Ed Gein, Ted Bundy, Dahmer, all of those people,
Hmm.
all mixed up into one guy, and that's Russell Crowe. So now Denzel Washington has to chase him from killing more people or something like that. I guess in retrospect it's bad, but when it came on the theaters, it was pretty good.
No, it does. I think I remember seeing like a synopsis of it and thinking that looks kind of cool, but not getting really into it because I got so burned by the cell.
Yeah. Okay. I like The Cell. I didn't think it was
Yeah.
I didn't think it was bad. It was intriguing because it was a new idea for me.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a new idea for me too, but I just didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay. But he was one of this Bruce Hill was one of the art directors here.
Hmm.
And then we also had Jim Martin, who is a conceptual artist. So I'm assuming he's the guy that came up with some of the ideas of how the troopers are supposed to be designed and all the bugs and all that, which is kind of a cool talent, let alone a job.
Yeah.
But he worked on Captain America, Spider-Man, the what's it called, Sam Raimi one, and Zootopia.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, so those guys are kind of cool. They got cool jobs.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, you know what? When I was trying to go through these, I was sad, like I was about to cry, and I was angry because there's like 7 minutes worth of credits, and we were gonna do it in one episode at first.
No, I figured. Oh yeah, I know.
I was just like, no, this makes me angry and sad.
Hmm.
Anyways, so some of these people here I don't think actually had much to do on set because there's like a projectionist, but I don't remember anybody projecting anything onto the screen. So I'm assuming it had to be when they're watching the dailies, etc.
Yeah, probably that. And then I'm seeing like assistant costume designer as well, two key costumers, men key costumer, regular costumers,
Costumers.
costumers.
Yeah.
What did I
Costumers.
say?
Customers.
Customers, yes.
Yeah, those are people buying stuff.
And I gotta get a major props for Rock Galati,
Oh, yeah.
weapons coordinator. Dude, you did an amazing job on all these guns.
Yeah, he keeps popping up a lot. He worked on he's currently working on Westworld, apparently.
Good for him.
Yeah, he did Expendables, he did Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, not the original one.
Mhm.
He did Face Off, Broken Arrow, and Tank Girl. Tank
Man.
Girl, I love Tank Girl.
I love
It's
all of those
such
movies.
a bad movie.
No,
I you know, with a lot of these people, I'm only picking certain films because some of them have too long of a list, especially when they're the technical people. They have an extensive list a lot of times.
yeah.
All right, so we do have the key makeup here, John Blake. Do you know what he worked on?
No, I don't.
So we have a key makeup guy named John Blake. He worked on Spider-Man Homecoming. He was a makeup artist for, it says here, Mr. Robert Downey Jr., but we know who that is. He worked on Guardians of the Galaxy as a makeup department head. The second one. He worked on Captain America Civil War, Age of Ultron. Not a bad movie. It just wasn't the best, but I did enjoy it still. Iron Man 3, The Avengers. He worked on Fast 5 and Fast and Furious 6. Iron Man 2, Tropic Thunder, great film. Walk Hard, Dewey Cox Story. Like, and these are just like the last close to dozen years. This guy, another one of those that the list is just way, way long than it should be. Some of his earlier work even included Pet Sematary for makeup effects. If you've seen that movie, it's got really good special effects and makeup. So, good on you for that one. So one of the other ones that I saw here that I definitely think needs to be getting a shout out is the location manager, Patrick Mignano. We've spoken about how some of the locations are kind of cool. So I definitely think he needs to be a shout out. He worked on Showgirls. Like we said, there's a lot of times where these people carry on from one movie to the next, and there's a lot of them. He also worked on the location for Suicide Squad, which I don't think there was a whole lot in that one. I don't know, but I also didn't like the movie too much, so I didn't pay as much attention to it. There was a supervising location manager, William Bowling. A lot of times, I don't know. When I see those supervising ones, we've all worked at jobs. How much does your supervisor do compared to you? So William Bowling get a shout out, but I didn't go into your credit as much. Close to that same block of credits, two people I know put a lot of work into this and definitely need a shout out. Storyboard artist, Giacomo Giazza. He worked on Life of Pi, Speed, Percy Jackson. I think it was The Lightning Thief. If anybody's read the Percy Jackson books, they're all really good. He worked on 6th Day, which Matt's a fan of, Total Recall, and RoboCop 2. If a lot of people don't know how much work goes into storyboarding now, a lot of it's taken out now because people are adapting from comic books, but literally storyboard artists bring the idea of the director's vision and a story to an actual place where you can actually see it and try and piece together how you can also shoot the film. They're incredibly important people. I had to storyboard a comic once and I hated it. So these people do it for a living. So good on you.
Yeah, definitely.
Second one is Robin Richardson. She worked on Iron Man, Aeon Flux, the film, Small Soldiers.
Ooh, I love Small Soldiers.
Yeah, Mars Attacks, and D3. When I think about how underglorified these storyboard artists are, if you think about how you can picture the scene of how you draw Small Soldiers, you have to draw these small, basically literally a small soldier, and your backdrop is the main, like the regular actors in the back. The storyboard artist has to think of the best camera angle when they're doing this, so you can see a size comparison but not lose everything. So that's why I definitely think that they need a shout out on it, because it's incredible work what they do. And a lot of times when you get DVDs with extras and whatnot, a lot of times they add in storyboard stuff that gets cut out just because sometimes it's not quote unquote important, but a lot of times you'll see them in deleted scenes of animated shows. Futurama had it where they would show you deleted scenes of jokes that didn't make it, but they did the audio for it. So they would splice in the audio with the storyboard in between the scenes so you can kind of get the joke. So I just think that those people are incredibly talented in what they do.
Oh, definitely they are.
So
I've actually moved down to creature visual effects by the Tippett Studio.
Well, I wanted to talk about, just to give him a shout out, there's Jerry Sargent. He was a construction foreman. If anybody knows what a construction foreman does, he makes sure that the sets are done correctly. So there's a lot of set design in this movie. He did a great job. He worked on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Thor, he was a construction foreman in New Mexico, which is just majority of the filming. He did props for Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 1. So he worked on quite a few, and he was also the construction foreman for Back to the Future 2 and 3.
Because they filmed both of those at the same time.
Yes. So he was actually one of the people that most likely built the clock tower in the third movie.
Ooh. Wait, no, there was no clock tower in the third movie.
No, they were building it, remember? It was just
correct.
Like that.
Correct. Yeah, the mechanism of the clock itself going before it went up into the tower itself. Yeah,
and they were about to hang Marty in that not built yet building.
Yeah, we got a new courthouse. I said we can have a time for a hanging.
Yeah. So he's probably one of the people that did the work on that actual thing. So
oh yeah.
So that I just think that those guys are kind of cool with what they do. Of course, he also worked on Showgirls.
Yeah, all these guys are working on Showgirls.
Pretty much. So who did you move on to?
Creature visual effects by the Tippett Studios.
You didn't want to talk about Mr. Busey's violin coach? I know you brought her up, but here she is on the credits. Martine Verhoeven, the wife of Verhoeven.
Hmm.
She's the one that taught him how to play the violin.
He already knew how, but she helped out.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure there's a specific sound that needed to be done because there's a good chance she'd been doing it a lot longer than he had.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's not bad to have a coach on set, you know?
Oh, definitely not. No.
Because it's a lot harder to try and dub the audio of playing a violin than it is just to get the audio that's coming straight out the instrument.
Though it did sound a little bit like, I don't know if it was dubbed over a few times because when Johnny and Dizzy are dancing, it gets a little louder, it gets a little quieter, so they may have to set up an amp right next to the darn thing.
Yeah. Well, those things I think, like maybe because that violin did look kind of weird. You know, it was futuristic.
It's an electric violin, yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they had the recording elsewhere, like maybe not so much on an amp, but I think that is kind of a mixing thing where you're trying to have the audio like as if it's supposed to be in a 3D effect, where because he was moving around and it just didn't pan out as much.
Hmm.
So, well, real quick, there's also Eric Wynn. Did you notice his credit?
Hmm.
Yeah, he did craft services.
Yay!
Everybody needs craft services.
Oh, yeah.
But he worked on Dawn of Justice, the Batman Superman movie.
Blech.
He worked on Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, he worked on Collateral.
That's not bad.
He worked on Legally Blonde.
Yay, there we go. Now we're talking.
And he worked on Mystery Men.
Oh, best.
Yeah, I know. But it seems like his credits, they ramped up to better or higher budget movies. When you have that key in as a craft service person for films, you know, that's a good paycheck. But Starship Troopers was his first. So
Good for him.
he got a start as well. I mean, there's a couple unknown actors that made it in, you know, but there's nothing like the guy that did craft services who got his foot in the door like that.
Yeah.
And then we do have to give a shout out to Brian Maynard, the medic.
Oh, yes, the
There was
person
a-
who made
there was-
sure that Johnny's rib cage was, set correctly and made sure that he was okay, made sure Dina Meyer's concussion was okay, and also make sure Jake Busey had his oxygen mask during the final parts of the movie.
Yeah, and also when you had heat exhaustion and all that. Yeah, we definitely went over it that a lot of people did get injured in the making of this film. That he's the only one credited, so I'm assuming he was there on hand for every single one. I do have friends that work in like AMR as EMTs and everything like that. So, and our listener.
Oh, yes,
So-
Christian.
Yeah, Christian. What's it called? You can ask. Well, we had him on, but there is a lot that needs to be done as a medic, and a lot of them are trained EMTs. So, if he's the one guy that's responding to a lot of people on the set, he probably had his work cut out for him every time the production began.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so you moved on to the Tippett Studios. That's quite a bit, right?
Uh-huh. And then we have the Tippett Studios for creature visual effects. Tippett Studios, Phil Tippett and his production company, gosh, they did a bang-up job creating the bugs. As I said before, in the books, there really wasn't, an example of the bugs. It was just a humanoid arachnid that was, capable of building cities, ships, and whatnot else. But this was the kind of thing that they had to make. They had to make a menacing-looking creature, multiple menacing-looking creatures, and make them look like they would be, physically able to live. I mean, we did multiple episodes where we were talking about the evolution of the certain bugs.
Yeah.
And they knocked it out of the park, especially Phil Tippett. I mean, him doing the multiple... I mean, he definitely took a lot what he learned from Jurassic Park and all the other movies in the early 90s from the transition of the computer to the digital age. And he did a lot of good work with the bugs. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing a few animatronic puppets as well, too, for a couple of the warrior bugs as well, too. So, I mean, he did a great job doing that. I've got also digital lighting. These guys made sure that everything looked correctly. Also next to it, match movers as well, too. Making sure when you see the the models of the Corvettes or whatever ship move into a space where it was possibly a CG model instead of a physical model, they made sure that matched up correctly.
Ah,
Same with the
that's
lighting
like,
as well too, making sure that the lighting on the CG effects, making sure that the lighting on the Tropical Ndathu was correct, all the bugs looking good. I mean, like the outpost on, I'm sorry, the Attack on Whiskey outpost, lighting all those bugs, making sure everything was looking good on that too. Shout out to you guys, man. You guys did amazing. James Flux, Bart Trickle, Scott Stutter, Steve Redding, all you guys, man. I mean, this was a fledgling time when you had to do, CG effects with physical effects too, and you knocked it out of the park.
yeah. If you also don't understand the importance of lighting, let the room be a lesson of what can happen when you have poor lighting. I mean, I'm not saying it was the fault of whoever was the lighting, but it was the choice of having two different cameras at the same time. And because they were off center, the lighting wasn't right, and then you would get that blur effect that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So, and it's because he was filming also in like the 60 millimeter as well as digital, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things can happen when lighting isn't correct, and the people who worked on the room, no, they did what they were supposed to. If anybody's seen Disaster Artist, you know that they had a hill to climb when they were choosing what they were going to do. But it wasn't their fault. But people that do lighting, they really know what they're doing, especially if these people, I think, are incredible because they see concepts through the mind's eye. You know, they don't get to actually see the changes, but they just know it's right. So these guys are good.
Yeah, definitely. I got a couple other, going down a little further, tech support. Man, Johann and I have both been in the tech support
Game.
Well, I mean, in the position of tech support in multiple parts as well too. No matter what you do nowadays, especially in this computer age, never ever not rely on your tech support. You always do, because if it ain't broken, I mean, if it's broken, you definitely notice it. But if it's not broken, you never notice us. These guys, Frank Cox and Joshua Lecoq, man, tech support on 97 computers especially. Holy crap. Good job on you guys.
And then I looked up for the 3D terrain mapping. We had Mike Gunn. This was his only credit. So, I mean, I'm assuming it was when they were trying to map like where to land in that little scene. So I think that's what he did. One of the things here that, okay, remember the last episode I said there was one name that the credit changed? It's
Yes.
Catherine Aaron, the intern.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at first it just said intern, and then all of a sudden it changed to Dave Tippett, or intern at Dave Tippett.
Okay.
So I tried looking her up. This is the only credit she has. There's too many Catherine Aarons on LinkedIn. I was just trying to see, like, what did she do after this film? You know, like, did it give her a leg in the door? Because who knows where she want to go? And then they say, like, oh, okay, so this is how many words you can type. This is your degree. You worked on Starship Troopers.
Ooh.
All right.
Man, I wish I had a credit for mopping the floor on the set of Starship Troopers.
Who wouldn't want a credit working on a movie like this?
Right?
Yeah.
I blew the nose of Casper Van Dien one time while he was in the shower.
Yeah.
That's my credit. I worked on it. You're hired. Let's actually end it right there and continue on in the next episode, okay?
Oh, all right.
We're at 30 minutes, so 30 minutes. I want to make it short on this one.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
All right.
All right, guys, and we will stop it right there, right before we get to spaceship visual effects by who knows who does that, but we'll figure out in the next episode. Johann, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitch and Instagram at JDASHD26. You can find me at Twitter at OMG It's Johann.
And you guys can find me at AltAbMatt pretty much anywhere on the internet. If you want to continue the conversation with us, we're going to be on the Roughneck Minute Billet on our Facebook group, BILLET. You can also follow us, the show itself, at the Roughneck Minute. At the Roughneck Min on Twitter, MIN. You can also go to our website, theroughneckminute.podbean.com, for any past episode show notes. And go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Google Play, or any other podcatcher you guys may be using at that time. I personally use Podcast App because it is fun. But I've been your host, Matthew.
I've been your other host, Johann. And we'll see you on the Bounce Troopers.